Tim Burton's sensibility is that the monsters are the good guys.
And they are.
Like Edward Scissorhands fans.
Dumbo, the circus star.
But Dumbo, he might be a freak, but he's not really a monster. Hi, I'm Kip, this is Vernon, and we just watched Dumbo. So Vernon, what did we watch?
We watch a movie about a huge entertainment complex taking over a small business, a small franchise, and winning that franchise. Because the guys who engineered the takeover had their own agenda. That's what we watched.
I said Dumbo, I didn't say Wall Street. We watched a Tim Burton movie that is not really a Tim Burton movie.
Because it's a remake of Dumbo. Yeah, it's a remake of the 1941 animated film by Disney.
I was more interested in watching a Tim Burton movie than a Disney movie. And I was actually curious to see how much of Tim Burton would show through and how much of Disney, corporate Disney, would show through. And I think it's mainly a Disney movie. So
I was interested in comparing this to the original Dumbo, which I have watched again quite recently.
Okay, so let's do the Dumbo comparison first.
Okay, if you're familiar with 1941's Dumbo, the first third of this movie is actually about the same as the original Dumbo animation, with a slight change in focus from the original Dumbo to the circus staff.
You mean the original Dumbo didn't start off in a circus?
The original Dumbo started off in a circus, but that he was the main character mostly. Whereas this one also concentrates on the humans who staff the circus.
Did he talk in the animation?
No, he didn't talk in the animation either.
But he was more anthropomorphic?
I think he was about the same as this one.
Okay.
Yeah, cute, doe-eyed, huge ears, can fly.
But not very smart?
No, not very smart, but has a heart, as you would say. Not very smart, but has a heart, like this one. And like this one, Dumbo and his mother are separated, and basically the central premise is still the same. Dumbo needs to be a better working circus animal in order to, I don't know, win his mom's freedom again, etc.
Okay, but
yeah, the mom goes berserk in the original as well, but slightly different, but it still follows the same beats as the original for the first third of the movie.
So anyway, what do you think of this new movie?
Basically, I think Tim Burton really wants to honor the original Dumbo. He has lifted completely two major scenes from the original Dumbo. One of the scenes that Tim Burton recreates is the very famous clown show debut of Dumbo, where Dumbo is incorporated into a circus act where a group of clowns try to put out a fire in the circus ring. And Dumbo's supposed to put out the fire by blowing water at it at the burning tower. And that is when, of course, as with the original Dumbo and the remake, Dumbo flies for the first time in front of the audience. The second scene is basically the circus rampage of Dumbo's mother. And it nicely sets up the quest for Dumbo, which is be a better circus animal, attract more audiences, and redeem or buy back mom's freedom. Where this film starts to differ from the original Dumbo is when Michael Keaton buys over Danny DeVito's circus. Like any good old-fashioned conglomerate, he buys over the franchise, dilutes it, and turns it into its own for its own purposes, and destroys the franchise.
Okay, spoilers ahead. I was thinking about the end, where Dumbo and his mother are released back into the wild.
Which, you know, is really bad science, because domesticated animals do very badly when re-released into the wild.
Did they get released into the wild in the...
Original? No. Dumbo becomes a successful, high-earning star of the circus.
Yeah.
Happy ending.
Yeah, because the releasing into the wild things...
very bad. Very bad. I don't know which environmentalist would approve of this plan.
But it seems more like a modern sensibility.
Yeah, it's a modern fairy tale that's even more deluded than the ending of the first one.
Which is like nature, wild is good, human civilization is bad.
But I think this remake focuses a lot on the human colleagues of Dumbo, and generally speaking, it has a really far more positive take on Dumbo's human colleagues than the original.
Okay, but overall...
I mean, Colin Farrell is, a bleeding heart guy. He has 2 kids who bond with Dumbo and teach it to fly. They are also instrumental in instigating the entire circus to save Dumbo. Really stand-up guys. And compared to the original circus, where some of the exploitation was far more stark and obvious, this circus, is, aside from Michael Keaton's evil mega corporation circus here, as portrayed by Danny DeVito's motley crew of misfits and freaks, very nice people.
I think the main human characters mainly did work. I was actually expecting more character development for Dumbo himself.
But he's just a flying elephant. He's an elephant that has flappy ears, can fly, and wants to be reunited with his mom. That's it.
Well, you can do more. It's just whether you want to or not.
Yeah, unless you give him lines.
You could make him like a lot smarter, more anthropomorphic, like Lassie. Or some dolphin. I think my main complaint is that the story itself, the plot or the morale or anything isn't particularly strong. It's a pretty weak story.
Unless you look at it as a fable about an evil mega corporation eating up small franchises.
But the visuals were good.
Visuals fantastic. Tim Burton not only recreated some of the best scenes from Dumbo, actually there was a third scene which he recreated, which was one of those one my friends call the big lip alligator moments, where the circus performers blow bubbles that merge into big bubbles that merge into giant elephants. That scene is actually recreated in live action or CGI in this film, and I think, wow, that's one of the best moments of this film.
I actually found the bubble scene a bit jarring. It threw me out of the story because the way the bubbles moved was very magical, and before this there was no hint of any magic appearing in this world, and later there's no hint of it appearing also, aside from Dumbo flying.
Right, but that was the magic of the early Disney films or early Disney animations. They all had very plausible stories, and then to showcase the technical wizardry of the original 7 old men, the key animators of Disney Studios, they would always throw in some really trippy animated scene.
Yeah, somehow a lot of Disney animation seems to have
that kind of scene.
A lot of drug scenes. Like there was this in the Lion King. There was this. There was the animals like dancing like crazy, and it looked like a drug scene. The interesting thing is that the director of photography is the same director of photography as Captain Marvel, and
which we just reviewed not too long ago.
And the visuals in Captain Marvel, the lighting, were
Unimpressive.
not very distinctive. So I guess it shows the impact of the director on the visuals. And the same director of photography also did movies like Guardians of the Galaxy and Age of Ultron.
One or two?
I think one.
Okay.
Yeah, so the story didn't really work for me. It wasn't very memorable. So I don't think this movie will be a classic that will be remembered decades in the future. If you look at it from a conventional storytelling framework,
It's a lot tighter than the original Dumbo.
no, but it's a bit strange because like the first hour, this is a 2-hour movie, so the first hour, there's no real plot. You don't really have an expectation of what's going to happen. There's no jeopardy, there's no bad guy, there's no challenge to the heroes much.
Okay.
And like even things like the minor circus performers, not the main characters, well, the other circus performers, they all band together to help save Dumbo and his mother.
But that's almost right at the end when they decide something needs to be done.
It seemed a bit out of place because these characters weren't very well introduced, so we don't know who they are, and it's just a bunch of guys suddenly working together. And I felt that they were strangers.
Okay, I beg to differ. Number one, there's this opening credits scene which nicely introduces most of the secondary cast from Danny DeVito's circus. You know who they are. You don't need to know their names. You don't even need to be introduced to them. They are there in the opening credits.
No, it's like them working together. It didn't really mean anything because
You've never seen them work together before. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair.
or you haven't seen them argue or not work together before. So it could be like, did Dumbo bring them together, or they were already a very like close-knit community, and it was just like your natural way of helping. Yeah. So either way, it wasn't.
With the
it wasn't
second.
clear. Either way, it wasn't clear. So it just seemed a bit strange that they would suddenly be doing this without knowing the background.
Sure. I mean, my other reply to you would be that yeah, this is a very conventional 3-act structure with a very heavy first act. First act basically sets up Dumbo's superpowers and sets up the challenge for Dumbo, which is at the end of the first act, everyone discovers Dumbo can fly, but the incident that leads to Dumbo's powers being discovered by everyone and appreciated by everyone also leads to Dumbo's mom being locked up, exiled, and sold off to a different owner. And that sets up the quest for Dumbo. So the first act covers that much. The second act covers the acquisition of the tiny franchise by Danny DeVito by the let's just be honest about it, the Disney stand-in, the evil Disney stand-in run by Michael Keaton.
What you think that Tim Burton made a Disney movie that
criticized Disney? This wouldn't be his first.
So which would be his first?
I'm thinking of the original Batman movies. His original Batman movies made fun of merchandising.
But was that a Disney movie?
It definitely not Disney, but it made fun of different. I think it was Warner Brothers, wasn't it? This would be the first time Tim Burton delivered to specifications exactly what a major studio wants, and at the same time having his cake and poking fun at studios and merchandising.
even if it is, I miss the main Tim Burton kick in the story of well,
Misfits?
monsters and freaks.
Yeah, I mean there are plenty of monsters and freaks in this
Yeah.
this film.
But Tim Burton's sensibility is that the monsters are the good guys,
And they are.
like Edward Scissorhands.
Dumbo, the circus
But
star.
But Dumbo, he might be a freak, but he's not really a monster.
Okay,
So
there's no real monster in this movie. Sadly,
Yeah, so
I don't. Maybe it's a sign of the times that you can't really have a real monster.
like the Nightmare Before Christmas, it was about the monsters being the nice guys, not necessarily the good guys. They were like bumbling nice guys. So that is really consistently Tim Burton's sensibility, and without it, it doesn't feel like a Tim Burton movie. He doesn't really contribute anything special to this. If you watched this movie, you would not think that it's a Tim Burton movie.
There were certain Tim Burton moments. This may not be what kid would call a classic Tim Burton movie. Tim Burton has not made Tim Burton movies for a long, long time. But there were very classic Tim Burton moments, especially when Dumbo gets laughed at by all the crowds in the circus, for example. Where
But
Michael,
that's
Michael,
part of the normal Dumbo story anyway. Right?
that is, I think, but Tim Burton also introduces a distorted lens, feel, concentrates on distorted faces of all the people mocking Dumbo that I do not remember in the animated version. Also, he's got little macabre touches. His operations man, not the ringmaster. That guy has a very macabre touch to him because look at his shoes. What are they made of? Elephant leather. It's a very, very bizarre detail that only Tim Burton would do. It's violent, it's gruesome, and Tim Burton only hints at it in this movie.
That's a minor detail of a minor character. So
Yeah, but details are important.
I think
This movie it's not broadly a Tim Burton movie, but it's a Tim Burton movie in some details. Yeah, I agree with you. It may not be a Tim Burton movie, but broadly speaking, it's not a Tim Burton movie. But it has very Tim Burton moments, and the details are very tiny details scattered here and there.
yeah, but there are a lot of directors who could have made this movie, whereas you wouldn't expect anybody else to make like even Alice in Wonderland or Edward Scissorhands or definitely Beetlejuice or even his Batman Returns.
Right, which was the film I was thinking about most when Michael Keaton's corporation bought over Danny DeVito's franchise, minor circus franchise, and ate it up and spat out merchandising for Dumbo and sort of tried to destroy or twist the franchise brand for its own purposes. That is a kind of corporate critique that I expect and love from Tim Burton. So if you look at, let's say, the Tim Burton of Batman Returns, there is this strong corporatist critique.
If you want to see it there, it's not necessary. It's just part of the plot.
Yes, but aside from misfits, or rather the empathy and sympathy for misfits, and the criticism of suburban normality, Tim Burton also has this very strong trend of corporatist criticism. You can see that in Batman Returns, for example, where the Shrek Corporation has all sorts of merchandising.
that doesn't add much to his movies or his style.
Well, it's more a Terry Gilliam thing. But I'm glad to see when Tim Burton tries to do it, and he wins.
And speaking of Michael Keaton, he seemed a bit restrained for Michael Keaton.
Yeah, I mean, for a
Surprising.
Disney movie, for a kids film villain, this is really subdued.
No, for Michael Keaton in a Tim Burton movie. Oh, one thing to note, the budget. The budget is 170 million US dollars, which is almost exactly the same as the budget for Alita Battle Angel.
I think it's money very well spent.
Well, being a Disney movie, being a remake of a beloved classic, it will probably make a lot of money, it will probably make a profit.
Overall, I think it's been far too long since Disney made an out-and-out for children's movie. I'd like to see more.
No, this is part of the live-action remakes of animation. So they're doing Aladdin.
Which they didn't need to. Robin Williams was really good in that.
Okay, bottom line. If this was not a Disney movie, if it was not a remake of a beloved classic, if it didn't have a high-powered director and cast, I think most people would not pay much attention to it.
For me, I'm a little bit more optimistic and forgiving. I think the best parts of the film come from the director and the cast and the sheer scale of the set design.
Yeah, the visuals, the set design, the lighting were beautiful. I think it was wasted on a pretty weak story.
The story's kind of weak, but the origin story was equally weak, but it had more musical interludes and more hallucinogenic, drug trippy scenes. But I'll take this film. It's one of the better films you can watch this weekend, and it's probably worth my ticket.
It's very much a Disney kids movie. If you've got kids, take them to watch it. But if you're an adult, a Tim Burton fan, yeah, it's not a big
But
deal.
still, I think it's a lot better than most of the Tim Burton movies in the past 10 years. The ones he's directed, not the ones he's produced.
Alice in Wonderland was a lot more fun.
I think Dumbo's more Tim Burtonish in terms of story,
Compared to Alice in Wonderland,
yeah, compared to.
okay.
But in terms of visual style, I think Alice in Wonderland had it hands down. At least that's my opinion.
Okay. And that's all we got for you.
And we'll see you next week after we decide what to watch.
Bye.
Bye bye.